So, not making much electricity today. Before somebody chews me out, I leave them on the ground on purpose because I've tested this. Got a little laser thermometer. The solar panels actually stay cooler when they're closer to the ground like this than they do up in the air. I guess the underneath kind of helps it stay cool. But you can see it's pretty cloudy today. And it's like that a lot in the wintertime. I have to run the generator a significant amount more in the wintertime than I do in the summertime. Well, as a matter of fact, this last summer, I didn't run the generator at all. I was pretty impressed with myself, how well we did this last summer. But I still got to tweak some things for the wintertime. Maybe more batteries. I'll figure it out one of these days, but every year we get a little better with it. But I have to run the generator in the wintertime. This winter, I'm actually doing quite a bit better than I did last winter. Last winter, when I ran the generator, I had to run it for 4 hours, a minimum. But now I run it maybe an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. Not too bad. Cloudy day like this, I might have to run it 3 hours total. But a lot better than last year. And last year, gas prices were so high. Right now, gas prices are actually coming down. We're under $3 a gallon now. These little generators, they don't take a lot of gasoline. I got two of these. I got this one, which is just a gas generator, and it takes about a gallon of gas every 11 hours. And then I got that dual fuel up on the hill with the well. It takes propane and gas. It doesn't use any more gas than this generator does. As far as propane, I have to always do the math to see which one's cheaper, propane or gasoline. Right now, obviously, gasoline's quite a bit cheaper because it's dropping in price. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is the other day I did a community tab poll. Now, if you want to go to my community tabs, go to my channel and you'll see little tabs at the top of the page, and you can see community. And there I do a lot of polls. And in the last poll I had, I asked the question, can you live without electricity? I know somebody's going to say, well, you can't live without electricity either, which at this given moment, well, I don't know if that's even true. I think if the solar panels stopped working right now, I'd be fine. There are two things that I rely on electricity for: the refrigerator and the well. The refrigerator, we don't need. It's just a luxury item. We can probably 90% of our food, but then once a month we go to the grocery store and we buy meat and we freeze the meat. If we lost electricity right now, we just can that meat. As a matter of fact, if the grid went down, we didn't have gasoline anymore, we probably would just unplug the refrigerator. Then that leaves the well. I intend, and I know somebody's going to chew me out, I intend to get a hand pump for the well. I know where one's at. It's a long drive. I don't want to drive there. I don't want to pay the shipping cost. If the next time I'm in that area, I'm going to get the hand pump that I want. Last time I said that, somebody said, well, that should have been the first thing you did when you got to your off-grid property. No, the first thing I needed to do was get water. So I wanted to get into a routine where we had water off-grid. For some reason, people think off-grid means SHTF just happened and you need to make sure that you're ready. No, SHTF has not happened. And even if I'm not ready, I can run the well pump off solar panels. Not today, but I can, especially if I don't have that refrigerator. But the question was not solar panels, but no electric. If that was the case, there is a natural spring just down the hill. I've showed it to you many times, and I just take buckets down there, we could get water. So I wouldn't need electric. Although I'd be very disappointed that I don't have the hand pump, I would be able to live without electric. Now, I didn't say specifically how you lost your electric. I think a lot of people assumed that SHTF would happen and we would be without electric. Others assumed that I was asking if they would voluntarily give up their electric. So the poll came up to about 50-50, and I was actually shocked by that. Can you live without electric? And a lot of people replied in the comments, I could, but I wouldn't want to. I could, but I wouldn't be comfortable. And then I got some that said, no, I can't. Because, and I really found this fascinating, I wouldn't be able to play my video games. Well, I got to disagree with you. I guarantee you, you can live without your video games. You can. It is possible. People have done it for generations. thousands of years, people have lived without video games. So it's possible. All the entertainment systems and all that, I understand it. I was hooked to TV before Carolyn and I hit the road on our nomadic lifestyle, and then we finally ended up here. You can live without it. And believe it or not, you can get library books or buy books and you read books. You can entertain yourself out here on the property. There's a lot of things to do. Now, what I found interesting is the interpretation of the question, which is, I can live without electricity as long as I have my generator and plenty of gas. Well, that's not without electricity. Now, of course, I got smart aleck answers also. Oh, you can't live without electricity. Your body requires electricity, which it does. It generates electricity, but that wasn't the question. Obviously, that's just a silly answer. Let's say SHTF happened. I mean, I guess that's the scenario we're going on. And the grid goes down. Okay, so now you got your generator. Where are you going to get gas? I found this one interesting because this has actually happened to my family. My grandma, I've told this story probably more times than I can count. My grandma had about $4,000 in beef in freezers in her basement. She just butchered several cows the previous fall, and in the springtime, a big storm came through, knocked out the electric for 2 weeks, and all that meat spoiled. They didn't have a generator. Well, I didn't know anything about this electric outage. I had a generator, and had I known that they were out of electricity, I would have taken it down to them. And for several counties, everything was out of electricity. It wasn't like you just go to the gas station. So I would have had to brought at least 2, 3, who knows how much gasoline. Nobody knew at the time how long it was going to be out. And it's not like you were getting news reports. I mean, I didn't even know they were out of electricity. It's not like they could call. So if the grid goes down, you're going to have to drive to get gasoline if it's just localized in your area. But if it's just a total shutdown, which is feasible, I would assume that if the grid goes down, it's going to be widespread. Let's assume that you can't get gasoline. So the generator is no longer an option. The other thing is, as I said, this little generator runs about 11 hours on a gallon of gas. Well, it's only a 2,000 watt generator, and that's only when it runs at 25%. So running this little battery charger, I get to 11 hours. But if you're running an industrial strength one, 5,000, 6,000 watts, so it can run your entertainment center and your Game Boy or whatever that is, you're going to use a lot more gas. You'll probably use a gallon of gas every couple hours. So you got to have that much gas stored up. Well, the thing about gasoline is it doesn't actually stay fresh very long. It might stay fresh for a year, probably not. If you don't treat your gasoline in your lawnmower, the gasoline will eat away at your carburetor gaskets and everything. I've actually had it happen to a generator. I stored a generator for 30 days. That's all it was, 30 days, with gasoline in the carburetor, and the carburetor was shot. I was extremely surprised by the results of this poll because this channel is an off-grid channel. So I kind of expected that some people are preppers. That's how they found my channel. 50% of the people said they could live without electricity. Let's flip the coin a little bit, and let's say they understood the question as they have solar panels or some sort of backup system, which is fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. That means that the other 50% can't live without electricity. Well, I really need to stress the point here. I think we're pretty vulnerable right now on our electric grid. I've given polls before where I've asked, do you think the grid's going to go down? And again, about 50% of the people do not think the grid will go down. If it goes down, it'll be for a day or two, no big deal. They can live without electricity for those couple of days. All you got to do is kind of pay attention to what's going on in the news. We're running out of energy. We're expecting solar panels and windmills to keep up with the grid. It's not possible. And this is from a guy who lives on solar panels. It's cloudy right now, and I cannot live without fossil fuels. I have to have a fossil fuel to run my generator at least for an hour or two a day in the wintertime or on a cloudy day like this. So if I can't do it, and all I'm running is a refrigerator, how are they going to do it nationwide? They can't. But that's what they're trying to push us to, wind and solar. Well, just over the summer, California passed a law and said, like, in 2030, no one's going to be allowed to buy gasoline vehicles in California. That same week or the very next week, the governor came out and said, if you own an electric car, don't plug it in because we have an electrical shortage. So that means they want you to buy more electric vehicles, but they're not doing anything to the infrastructure to power the electrical vehicles. Well, then people are gonna say, well, that's California. Okay, that's California. I've been to Texas, and I know when I talk bad about Texas, oh boy, do I get grief. You would expect that Texas, where the TV show Dallas came from, where they drilled oil, would have an endless supply of electricity because they have fossil fuels down there. But what did I see all through Texas? Windmill farms, just tons of them everywhere. I was shocked to see it. I mean, there was a lot of oil wells also. Well, then 2 years ago, I think it was, there was an electricity shortage in the middle of winter. There is a lot of debate as to what actually caused the outage. But here's what I'm thinking. Texas, the state where the TV show Dallas came from, ran out of electric. They did not have enough electric to get them through this cold snap, what, last 2 weeks, I think it was. So if it can happen in Texas, it can happen anywhere. Now 2 weeks seems like, oh, okay, I can handle 2 weeks. Well, people died in those 2 weeks. People were miserably cold. And so they did crazy things. They got in their car, in their garage, started the car to stay warm, and died of carbon monoxide. All kinds of stories like that. So if it can happen in Texas, why can't it happen in Missouri? Why can't it happen in Ohio? It can happen. There was a few years ago on the East Coast. I'm not sure what happened or why it happened, what caused it, but the electric grid went down on the East Coast, something like that, for like 2 weeks. The entire grid of, so it's not like you could have went out and got gasoline for your generator. It was multi-state wide. Indiana and Ohio and New York, I mean, it was all over the place. Pennsylvania, don't quote me because I'm not exactly sure what states were affected, but I know Indiana was affected. I had a client there, that's why I know. I think we live in a fantasy world where we think the United States is protected from these kind of traumatic things. But when you look at, and I'm not trying to make a comparison between Europe and the United States, but when you look at Europe, you should get the impression, well, Europe's a pretty stable area, kind of a rich area. They should be able to maintain their electric grid. But apparently they can't. And Germany and UK are struggling to figure out how to keep their people warm this winter. So if you click this up next box, take you to a video where I told you about some problems I'm having around here. So I hope I can inspire you to be more prepared than you are so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.